We would love to. We just need the leads. So anybody out there, if you've got any leads for us, you can email us, you can call us.
The energy on set was incredible. I didn't actually work with any stuntmen on the set.
On the morning of March 12, 2025, numerous major news outlets simultaneously reported Mike Wolfe, the prominent face of the reality television show American Pickers, had been sentenced to life imprisonment. The charges sounded like the plot of a high-stakes thriller, transnational artifact smuggling, concealed in evidence related to the death of a renowned historian, and manipulating the antique auction market worth tens of millions of dollars. To millions of viewers, Mike Wolfe had always embodied the image of a heritage enthusiast, traversing across America to rediscover objects that carried the soul of time. But the truth revealed during a 46-day trial painted a different portrait: a cold, calculating man with covert ties to clandestine antiquities trafficking rings from the Middle East and Europe. The story began on June 17, 2023, when police in Bloomington, Indiana, received a call from a neighbor reporting a strange odor emanating from the basement of Professor Harold Clemens's house, a retired historian who had taught at the University of Chicago and specialized in Civil War era artifacts. When authorities broke in, they found Clemens deceased, lying on his back with his right hand clutching a small object, a silver pocket watch engraved with faint but readable words, RK 1887 for honor not glory. At first glance, it seemed to be the natural death of an elderly man living alone, but that watch was something that should not have been there. Just a week later, the Savannah National Museum issued an internal memo that was soon leaked. The watch had once been part of the Battlefield Heritage Collection, which had gone missing in 2019 during an unexplained storage transfer. The incident had never been made public. The museum feared scandal until the item unexpectedly resurfaced in the hand of a corpse. This information spread quickly across social media. But what truly caused the situation to explode came from an anonymous Reddit post. A user named GearGhost82 created a thread on the antique hoarding subreddit. "I swear I saw this exact watch in an unaired episode of American Pickers when Mike visited a farm in Kentucky. It was in his palm, and he even said this watch tells stories." Within 48 hours, dozens of people came forward claiming they had seen the same item on the show, or at least a similar clip that had circulated on YouTube in 2021 but was later removed. Other users added, "I saw it in the display cabinet at Antique Archaeology in Nashville last year. Might be the same one." In July 2023, the FBI quietly opened an investigation, working with the International Antiquities Trafficking Task Force. The operation was codenamed Rust Rail, with its primary focus determining whether Mike Wolfe was connected to an illegal interstate and possibly international artifact trading network. One of their early leads came from an unreleased History Channel video leaked by a former employee. In the 14-minute footage, Mike Wolfe is seen negotiating the purchase of a set of military pocket watches from an unidentified man inside a warehouse near Paducah, Kentucky. By Elgin? Yeah, it's an American manufacturer. Mike's voice in the video includes a line, "I know this piece went through the hands of an officer. It definitely has historical value. I won't ask where you got it." What raised further suspicion was that the connection between Harold Clemens and Mike Wolfe wasn't entirely non-existent. In 2017, Clemens made a brief appearance at a televised regional symposium on object history. In his introduction, he made a cryptic remark: "Some artifacts should never be for sale. They carry pain no amount of money can buy." An internal email from Clemens's computer, recovered after his death, revealed deeper suspicions. In a message to a close friend, he wrote, "I believe I've uncovered a chain of illicit transactions originating from a well-known television figure. I'm debating whether to alert the federal authorities." That email was sent 3 days before his death. Though police found no signs of assault, the forensic report indicated a small contusion on the back of Clemens's head, possibly from a fall or from impact before losing consciousness. No one was prosecuted for his death, but from that moment, the investigation changed course. Mike Wolfe was officially placed under federal-level special surveillance, and that small watch, once a blurry detail, became the spark that forced an entire antiquing empire to face justice. Rust Trail, tracking the objects that never made it on air. Immediately after the silver pocket watch appeared beside Professor Harold Clemens's body, the federal investigative team began reviewing all aired episodes of American Pickers while also issuing formal requests for internal records from the History Channel and the show's production company. The FBI quickly discovered something unusual. From 2020 to 2023, more than 40 items acquired by Mike Wolfe and the show's crew never appeared on television. Some had been filmed with basic purchase receipts, but there was no clear record of where they went afterward. Among them was the very same fateful pocket watch. The covert investigation was codenamed Rust Rail, a reference to the path of tracing items buried in warehouses, basements, or perhaps even the underworld layers of the antique market. At first, the investigative team could not directly approach Mike Wolfe. Instead, they quietly trailed one of his backstage assistants, Craig Salinas, who had worked as a driver and primary transport handler for the production team. During a surveillance session lasting nearly 6 hours in southern Missouri, Salinas was recorded driving a van labeled Antique Archaeology to an abandoned warehouse, a location not listed in any official filming schedule. Local police were asked to assist by posing as a building safety inspection crew. There they saw a series of sealed wooden crates containing 18th to 19th century items, including at least 3 objects identified by the FBI as reported stolen from a local museum in Georgia. A major turning point came when the investigation team obtained search warrants for 2 private storage facilities registered under a company called Time Vault Logistics LLC, a shell company in which Mike Wolfe held shares through 3 layers of financial intermediaries. In the first warehouse in Ohio, they discovered more than undocumented antiques ranging from Civil War-era revolvers and torn handwritten manuscripts to a nearly 1-meter-tall Egyptian deity statue carefully stored in a shockproof container. This statue, according to an internal report, matched one stolen from the Luxor Museum, Egypt, in 2011. Following the money trail, the FBI found that Mike Wolfe owned at least 5 small companies incorporated in tax havens such as Malta and the Cayman Islands. From 2016 to 2023, nearly $4.7 million USD had been moved between these companies through antique transactions, but none involved certified appraisers or reputable auction houses. Notably, a Swiss bank account under Wolfe's name had received a $150,000 wire transfer from an individual linked to the underground antique market in Aleppo, Syria, once accused of being a transit point for looted cultural artifacts during wartime. What stunned investigators was how Mike organized the entire operation. No official team member was responsible for transporting goods after filming. Everything was handed off to a third party with contracts signed through virtual fax apps and payments made in cash or cryptocurrency. The logistics coordinator was a man of Eastern European descent, his real name unknown, but saved in Mike's messages under the alias Memon. From November 2023, the FBI decided to infiltrate the network by approaching an antique shop previously visited by Wolfe in New Mexico. An unofficial meeting between an undercover agent and Mike took place on the night of December 3rd. In an audio recording later leaked during trial, Mike is heard saying, "Not every item should be on TV. Some things are meant for those who truly understand their value, not the audience." Shortly after this meeting, the FBI executed emergency searches at 3 locations connected to antique archaeology, including a secret warehouse in North Nashville. There they uncovered the List 17, a handwritten coded document listing artifacts alongside symbols, black market prices, and transaction dates. Next to the list was a personal notebook belonging to Mike, with a penciled line that read, "They will never understand this is about heritage, not money, but heritage cannot be an excuse to break the law." And with that much evidence, from undocumented artifacts, shady accounts, to notes indicating concealment, Mike Wolfe was officially named the prime suspect in what could become the biggest scandal in the history of American reality television. A tense trial and the verdict for Mike. On January 9, 2025, the federal trial of Mike Wolfe officially commenced in Chicago. Security was tight, reporters crowded outside the courthouse, and many people held signs reading "Free Mike," still believing this was all a misunderstanding. But what was revealed inside the courtroom left most in silence. The 39-page indictment listed 6 main charges, including illegal transportation of antiquities, international trafficking of cultural heritage, tax evasion, obstruction of justice, money laundering, and indirectly concealing evidence in a suspicious death. The proposed sentence: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The prosecutor opened with a series of images and clips from never-before-aired videos in which Mike Wolfe appeared negotiating shady deals at locations not officially documented in the show. One of them showed Mike handing cash to a Syrian man in a Detroit garage in exchange for a small box containing unverified Roman coins. The prosecutor described it not as collecting but as a commercial model built on illegality disguised through the lens of television. A major blow to Mike's defense came from the testimony of Frank Fritz, Mike's former companion during many of the show's early seasons. After stepping away from the show, Frank agreed to be a witness, and his words silenced the courtroom. He said, "We had once promised to only collect what was legal. But as time went on, everything changed. Mike became obsessed with things no one else had. He said, to keep the show alive, we have to dig deeper, both literally and figuratively." Frank carefully recalled an incident in 2021 when they acquired a wartime diary in Arkansas. Mike later took it away, and no one knew where it went, but weeks later, Frank saw a copy of that very same diary on the black market priced at 15 times more. The defense team offered little direct rebuttal to the physical evidence. Instead, they focused on portraying Mike as someone caught in a system he could not control, claiming all transactions were handled by the logistics team and that Mike was a lover of antiques, not a mastermind. They argued the suspicious funds were legitimate income from private foreign collections and the Swiss account was a lawful savings account. Mike Wolfe remained silent for nearly the entire duration of the trial. His gaze was somber, devoid of emotion. On day 31 of the trial, when asked if he wished to speak to the jury, Mike stood, looked straight at them, and said, "I never saw myself as a criminal. I just wanted to save what others had thrown away. If that makes me guilty, I accept it." That shocking statement was quoted across headlines, dividing public opinion between admiration and condemnation. On sentencing day, the judge took just over 4 minutes to read the verdict. Based on the volume of evidence, the level of organization, and the resulting consequences, particularly the concealment of artifacts from international cultural theft, the court sentenced Mike Wolfe to life in prison without parole and terminated all ownership rights related to the show and the antique archaeology brand. In the gallery, an elderly man broke down in tears. He had been a devoted fan of the show for a decade. On social media, fan pages that once praised Mike began to disappear or shift to in memoriam status. But a larger question still lingered: if Mike was the ringleader, then who were the people behind him? The empire collapses and aftershocks. Just 3 days after Mike Wolfe was sentenced, History Channel officially announced the cancellation of American Pickers and removed all related content from its streaming platforms. The once massively followed YouTube channel silently deleted old videos. The website of Antique Archaeology switched to a blank interface with only one sentence: temporarily suspended. A name once embedded in American television culture vanished so quickly, it felt almost as if it had never existed. The FBI sealed off both showroom locations in Iowa and Tennessee, which Mike had once called sacred spaces for lovers of the past. The secret warehouse in northern Nashville, once used as a collection hub for artifacts, was transferred to the Heritage Management Bureau. An inventory lasting nearly a month revealed numerous items with falsified documents, unclear provenance, and worse, some were confirmed to be religious relics originating from conflict zones such as Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Among them was a marble carving believed to have belonged to an Ottoman royal tomb, stolen in 2003. The antiquities auction market entered a temporary freeze. Major houses like Sotheby's and Christie's issued statements reviewing all transactions indirectly linked to Mike Wolfe. Some major deals worth hundreds of thousands of dollars were canceled. Private collectors began to fear that items they once scored through Mike could be seized at any moment. Outside, the public began to divide. Loyal fans believed Mike had been made a scapegoat for a system long operating in the shadows of art, commerce, and politics. On platforms like X and Reddit, detailed analyses of inconsistencies in the investigation emerged, suggesting Mike might have stumbled upon information someone didn't want revealed. One detail that further ignited public debate was the List 17, the document found in Mike's warehouse. Beyond the encoded transactions and artifact symbols, the final page bore a handwritten line, Q7R3VTI. Analysts and conspiracy theorists alike rushed to decode it. Some believed it was an abbreviation for a secret organization involved in high-end artifact trafficking, possibly tied to high-ranking religious authorities. A popular theory claimed Vatican referred to the Vatican Intel Corps, an entity never officially acknowledged. Though there was no clear evidence, the presence of this code turned the story into something far more obscure, stretching beyond one man and a television show. Another document released by the forensic investigation team was Mike Wolfe's personal notebook. Alongside notes like Episode 312 Cut Old Truck Scene or Follow-Up with Leopard Skin Collection Holder, one page contained a single handwritten sentence, "Not all past should be brought to light." This page was tightly folded and wedged between unrelated sheets, as if Mike had wanted it found by accident. At the federal prison in Terre Haute, where Mike is serving his sentence, officials have denied all media access. A former associate, speaking anonymously, revealed he doesn't talk to anyone. Eats alone, walks alone, makes no special requests. It's as if he's accepted the sentence, or had already seen it coming. In March 2025, during a closed-door hearing, FBI representatives stated that other individuals connected to the case are still under surveillance, implying the investigation is ongoing. One of those unofficially summoned was a former program director at History Channel, the person once responsible for reviewing cut episodes. No one knows whether certain footage was deleted, edited, or deliberately buried. To understand why it all came to this, one must return to the beginning, before the camera lights, before the $1 million brand, back to where Mike Wolfe began. Mike Wolfe, the man behind the tragedy. Mike Wolfe was born in 1964 in Joliet, Illinois, into a poor working-class family. Raised by a single mother with two siblings, they survived on hand-me-downs from neighbors. From a young age, Mike was fascinated by what others threw away. While his friends collected baseball cards, young Mike dug through the schoolyard dump to retrieve broken radios, old bikes, anything with gears. His favorite saying during those early years was, "If it's worthless to everyone else, it's even more worth keeping." By 2010, when American Pickers first aired on the History Channel, Mike was already in his 40s. But the way his eyes lit up upon seeing an antique license plate was still childlike. The show became a phenomenon. Alongside his partner Frank Fritz, Mike drove thousands of miles across America, scouring garages, old barns, and forgotten warehouses to find treasures from the past. He was beloved not just for his knowledge but for the respect he showed sellers and the genuine passion he held for each object. But perhaps that passion went too far. Someone who worked with Mike in the early years once said, he didn't just collect objects. He collected control over memory. As the show gained fame, the pressure to maintain ratings intensified. Each item had to outshine the last. And to achieve that, Mike began seeking out places people weren't supposed to go, evidence lockers, black markets, suppliers from war zones. No one knows exactly when Mike crossed the line, but one thing became clear, he was no longer just looking for things no one wanted. He was after things people were afraid to keep. Perhaps in Mike's mind, he was doing the right thing, rescuing fragments of history from being forgotten. But the law does not operate on personal ideals. Now Mike Wolfe is inmate #42719D54. The name that once stood for American heritage has been erased from all public platforms. But deep down, the question remains, was Mike Wolfe a man who exploited the past for profit, or the last person brave enough to preserve it regardless of the consequences? Mike Wolfe, from a man who crisscrossed America collecting memories, to a national television icon, and finally a convicted felon sentenced to life in prison. This story is a reminder that sometimes the line between passion and wrongdoing is thinner than we think, and the truth, no matter how deeply buried, will always find its way back to the light. What do you think about the verdict for Mike Wolfe? Was he a victim of the system, or someone who went too far beyond the limits of morality? Let us know your thoughts in the comments after this video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest releases.